there is a great deal of trunch, even if Maxfield's not here. It's a logic.
Yeah, I mean, we've got 7 district councils and they all approach things in slightly different ways. So in Breckland, they will pay for some services and not for others. I mean, I think we don't want to mention car parks, but car parks is something which you'll find is different depending on which district council you're in. If you actually streamline that, then everybody gets the same service in that respect. But in terms of the services that your local town are providing, it's because your district council aren't providing them. I would respectfully say, and where it's different in different areas. So that's where we can get the streamlining. And if there are services passed down to a local parish or town council, then the budget that we would spend on those normally at the district level or at the county level should be passed along with it. We're not asking towns to take on huge financial burdens. It's got to be what your cost.
Given some of the money that you're paying on the, to let's say Norwich for their toilets, are we going to get some money for our toilets? Because I don't want to be paying for Norwich toilets as well as Durham toilets.
Sorry,
money goes
toilets, aren't we?
Yeah, well, it's one of the.
It's a good example, and there are lots of places where the public toilets are managed locally. It happens in my town too. Again, districts have made different decisions about how they manage those sort of assets. There would have to be a policy across the piece about how those assets are managed and what's pushed down and the budget that goes with it.
Yeah,
Philip.
Thank you. We're already now.
But you can't.
Stop you there, Councillor Dyke, because I don't want to discuss toilets any further.
Sure.
Could you turn your mic off, please? Could you turn your mic off?
Start with your own expenses.
Okay, on this first bit, I'm going to take Councillor Kemp last, and then we'll go into the whole wider document, and we'll have some fun there. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. And from toilets, I would like to move on to the risk of flooding, because in the assumptions you've made for the budget for the new unitary and in the savings, have you accounted for specific continuity of some services which might not be statutory but which are absolutely important, such as the funding for the drainage boards in West Norfolk? As you know, the fens were drained in the 17th century and we have to keep pumping the water out, otherwise we'll be underwater. So this is a specific issue, and I haven't seen it mentioned in any of the papers that we've seen, that we've been given to read, and it is absolutely vital. It is a local funding issue which is funded by the districts, but if the districts go, what will happen?
Chair, I think a good answer on that one. It's a statutory function, so I suspect the responsibility will pass to the Unitary Council to raise the drainage board levy.
Thank you. Right, we're now moving to the broader document, and I promised I'll take Councillor Bambridge first, and then I'm going to have a go.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Some people have already made comments about what I want to talk about, which is the neighbourhood area committees. There is one set up in King's Lynn now. I mean, it had a previous name, but it's now called a neighbourhood area committee. And I want to know how the members of it are appointed or will be in the future. And no disrespect to anybody. I mean, the Bishop of Lynn is a member of it, and I admire her greatly. But we have a senior Norfolk County Council officer on that board, the chief executive of the Borough Council, and we have Councillor Ring here, who is deputy leader. And as I said, no offence to the people that are appointed.
And that's resident.
But in King's Lynn, there is no town council. And I was the borough councillor for 16 years, and I can't tell you how many people wanted a town council, despite my hard work, which included calls at 6:30 in the morning and at midnight, and people knocking on my door, everything else. And I know other councillors get that. So shouldn't they be elected like parish councils are? What authority will they have? What spending will they be able to make? What governance rules will apply? And code of conduct, things like that. So I really want to know why a neighbourhood area committee has been designated for Kings Lynn rather than the town council. There's mention in the document about the mayoral areas, and Kings Lynn is the oldest, longest standing mayor. I was the 820th mayor of Kings Lynn, so that's something to be really proud of in the area, and anywhere in Norfolk, quite frankly. There's a lot more that I need to see in this document that will explain what will happen and how it will happen. And I think it needs more of a local input, people that actually live in the area rather than people that come from outside.
Yeah.
Bottom up rather than top down. Who would like to answer?
Keeping the skill on your...
I'm happy to give that one a go, Chair. So I think if we started with membership of the committee, so neighbourhood area committees in the business case are different to what you've described as neighbourhood boards in Kings Lynn. They were set up by government, and they were set up in a particular way. For example, they have to have an independent chair, and they have a specific number of things that they're meant to do. So these area committees are not quite the same. The best way to think about these is they're like committees of the county council. So they'd be chaired by elected members. They would be bound by the unitary council's code of conduct and all of those other things that other committees would have. Page 68 of the document gives you an indication of the type of people we think should sit on the committee. And when I say sit on, there's probably a discussion to have about whether those people attend and discuss or whether they are part of the decision-making process, and there's some things that we'll need to work through. When it comes to why a neighbourhood area committee and not a town council, well, they're two very different things. A neighbourhood area committee will be part of the unitary authority, will be responsible for delivery of the relevant bits of the unitary authority services. A town council, like parish council, delivers different services to a unitary council. So they are very different things. You can have both, but they have different responsibilities. So the town council will not be responsible for a unitary council's services. For
So we're going to have...
what
Are you
government
kidding
have
me?
said, although they've not told anybody what to do, they have in their feedback on interim plans across the whole of the country asked
So we're still
people
going to have
writing
a
business
two-tier?
cases to be very wary of proposing town councils, not least because that adds a precept on local communities, so that adds another
Communities,
tax
can you
amount
stop going
for local
up with your...
taxpayers. They haven't said you shouldn't, they've just asked people to be very
With
wary
your
of
chat?
that. So hopefully that explains why we've not proposed town councils in the business case. That does not mean that there cannot be one, and the local community
No,
can still ask for an area
you do
boundary
it so
review
we
and
can
still
see the
ask for
different
town council
costs.
to be put in place, as they can now.
Oh,
We should come back, Councillor Bambridge.
oh.
I don't think so. I still think that that they're all important, and I think a town council is now needed in the places where it's not just Kings Lynn, in the towns and cities where there isn't one.
Yeah.
I think they need.
And there's a lot that
people
don't
serving
have
on
it in
those
North
councils need to be
Norfolk.
elected.
Can I just say, I think we're being sort of told to steer away from mandatory parishing of places that aren't currently parished. I think the government don't seem very keen on that. But I agree with you, and in the bigger conurbations like Norwich and Great Yarmouth and Kings Lynn, there needs to be something where there currently wouldn't be if you just...
They're trying to turn them three
away.
into
So
cities,
that's
you
something
see.
that would need to be worked through. I absolutely agree with you on that.
I worked very hard as a borough councillor, and I know that Councillor Kemp does, and she's also in the unparished area of Kings Lynn. And for a town the size of Kings Lynn, it needs a lot more, and for the mayor as well.
I think that's noted, Councillor Bambridge, by those in the room.
You guys are not ready for this.
My question was going to be about the neighbourhood area committees, which, in terms of how they've been set out by when Jim McMahon was the minister, he didn't prescribe what they had to be. He said that there had to be something in place in terms of neighbourhood delivery and accountability. You don't even have to call them neighbourhood area committees. You can call them something else, and it's entirely flexible. Now, on page 184 in the Mutual
And these groups do it for free.
report,
More volunteer
it
work.
talks about the challenges of an
What's
authority
keeping this country
of
together at the moment
900,000
isn't voluntary
residents.
services.
And then it says, to be viable under the MHCLG criteria, the model is therefore entirely dependent on the creation of exceptionally strong, well-resourced and genuinely empowered neighbourhood level structures to act as a counterbalance to its size. So that's to be viable. And that is setting a very high bar.
It's passing the buck.
Within our own report.
That is literally the government
And yet the chief
passing
executive has called
the
them a
buck.
challenging proposition.
Taking our money.
In your opening remarks. How assured can we be that we will get the level of funding and support that such bodies will be exceptionally strong? And
How much does Norfolk
Excellent point, Chairman.
contribute to tax
We've
every year?
already said we've set aside
Will we ever know the
5.4
true
million
cost
in
of
the
that?
single
Because then
unitary.
maybe that can be ring-fenced
We've heard
for Norfolk
from
for all of this.
the outset that one of the concerns is mega council, large, remote, blah, blah, blah. 30 to 50,000 a footprint, 20 or so of them across the county. So I think it's absolutely achievable. But what's important, it's that thing, as I said, that a unitary isn't the county council. In the county council, we drift by budget into focusing a lot of time and effort on adults and children's, 75% of our spend. This is really important as a unitary council, that we have that universal footprint, that we have, we've got some very local county councillors who are absolutely stuck in local environmental issues, community safety issues, whatever it is. This is just shining that spotlight on that. Note to myself and the team, as well as our county councillors and the shadow authority, we have to get this right. So can we get it right? Yeah. Why did we go to Mutual Ventures? Because they're the best people in the country to do this. And it isn't us marking our own homework. So it gives us a model to work to. I think it'll land really well with officials and the new ministerial team.
Is this another business plan?
This is the gold standard that we want to set here in Norfolk to show you can do this.
Thank you. I've got a couple of follow-up questions. I'll do them one at a time. The first one is about the phasing period, because
I want Norfolk to lead.
A significant 5-stage phasing period, which I would imagine will
Be
be
rolled
over a
out
number of
across
years.
the rest of the country.
If these are so critical to the operation of the council, what's going to happen in the meantime?
So we've got 2.5 years to vesting day. So again, in that period between the minded to decision and the statutory change order getting sealed down, minded to decision March 26.
Has anyone voted on this?
Order
Has anyone voted?
Parliament, let's say
go
September,
ahead with
October.
Have we,
It's let's
people,
agree the details that go into the statutory change order.
Because this is happening
regardless,
isn't it?
As of, for example, we get agreement with government as to what we do with the old town deal boards.
Brexit all over again.
Reconfigure those.
Locally.
Quite happy. I think it would be very useful, for example, to set ourselves a target of, well, let's have the first 10 in place by, the next 10 in place by. You give ourselves those targets to do, and that then gives us a priority, for example, around staffing. So that we make sure that's a priority within the safe and legal for day one, but also that we will have the universal coverage by, if it's day one plus 6 months, day one plus 9 months, and of course we'll have we will be preparing lots of work for the shadow authority when it's elected in May 27. And we can have stuff ready for them so that decisions can be made, and we can start the recruitment. We can sign off the design of them. And again, it's that challenge between making sure we don't drift into a top-down, but actually working with your new councillors as to what feels right in Clenchmont Wharton. Versus Magdalene.
Political reality is that come May, a lot of us in this room might not still be here. If there are elections, we can't guarantee that any of us will be here on the shadow authority when that's elected. So if there is not the political will by the new leadership of the council to fund this to the level that's in the Mutual Ventures report, don't the wheels come off the whole thing?
So that's one where I'll keep. So there's two things. First of all, it's what's sealed down in this the statutory change order. You know, from the point of view of that parliamentary instruction to the implementation executives and ultimately the shadow council. It's, I won't call it a risk. It's the reality of any election as to what a previous administration does and the next administration does. Again, by us identifying a healthy amount of funding for this, by us being really clear that this is fundamental to that connection between local people, local issues, right the way up to the council chamber. You know, I think that's good. The fact that we will have, you know, in the first instance, our 168 councillors will all be sitting on the neighbourhood area committees, and it's that truism. All politics is local. So this is about our ability as a big authority to impact things at a street level. That's a great challenge. You for people who work in local, you know, because that's where, you know, we're good at what we do, or we're not, and we want to be good at what we do.
Thank you. I do think it's a massive risk to the whole venture if these are not implemented properly. And, you know, we might have a council who wants to implement a Doge unit and do away with everything. And then where would that leave us, quite honestly, within this unitary council? And I don't think we can rely on the government giving it sufficient structure and instruction around that's going to safeguard that these are actually put in place. But I'm going to stop my rants there. I've got Councillor Ring, then Councillor Morphy, then Councillor Long.
Thank you, Chair. Risk. You make a very good point. This whole report seems to ignore the single point of failure risk of a single county unitary. And the point you've just made, Chair, about the political will post-elections, and it isn't just the county elections if they happen next May, of course, it's the unitary elections. If we end up with a single county unitary, I'd like to ask the question, a two-part question really. Why does the Norfolk County Council believe that at 900,000 and a wide rural district, county, it can do better than Birmingham at 1.1 million as a unitary, which of course we all know went bankrupt. And the single point of failure there has been disastrous for the local residents. And secondly, where are 168 councillors going to sit? And the democratic deficit of trying to get 168 councillors with a voice, even 120 councillors if you get it down to that. Birmingham had 101 and it failed. If you had 168 councillors with 5 minutes each to speak on an important matter, our meetings would last 14 hours. Or, like the last full council meeting, we would end after just 1 or 2 motions and the rest of the motions would be effectively scrapped. That's not democracy. So why does this council believe that it can do better than Birmingham and it can do better than North Yorkshire, who claim to have savings of 30-odd million in its forecast, but now it's looking at deficits? And where in the budget is that risk shown? Because I can't find it anywhere.
Chairman, a couple of points, if I may. Birmingham didn't go bust because of its size. It went bust because of its leadership or lack of leadership, and governance or lack of governance. A great example is this, and again, we have to remember the Unitary Council isn't Norfolk County Council. Norfolk County Council will cease to exist on the 31st of March 2028, and the new council will come into being. But this, one of the issues Birmingham had was the implementation of their Oracle system. Oracle is a hugely complex system to implement. Norfolk County Council implemented our Oracle system for about £20 million, which was more than we set out to do that. Birmingham's, I'd have to check with Jeff, it's 100 and something million and still going. And actually, the County Council have been asked by government to join a task force to help Birmingham implement their Oracle system, because we happen to be good at some of the things that we do. A risk that there is, I'm more worried about the risk, for example, of the financial viability of councils than where the 160, and I accept it for what it was, where we'll find a place for 168 councillors to sit down. We have to remember that within this chamber, within this county council, we spend an awful lot of time ensuring that the budgets are sound and robust. We identify pressures, we work through them, and we deliver a balanced budget year in, year out. And that's going to be critical for the three unitary councils. And then I think Councillor Ring's got it wrong if he thinks what happens in this chamber or the chamber that can fit 168 councillors, that's not really the key place for the success and failure of the council as far as local people is concerned. That's the neighbourhood area committees, where we can actually be out there supporting our county councillors in their local places, making differences. So they say, we've got an issue, a group of councillors, the police, other organisations come together, and we can sort those issues at a local level. That's, again, the difference between the county council and the unitary. So I think it's really important for us to remember that.
My devil's advocate bit again is, provided those neighbourhood committees are exceptionally strong and well resourced.
Yes, if you look at the way that national government is run, most of the work goes on in the committees, doesn't it? It doesn't go on necessarily in the chamber. That seems to sort of the talking shop, isn't it? So I'm not scared about having 168 councillors here, although it's not going to be ideal, but it's the only way I think that we're going to get it over the line initially, is to use the current county divisions and just double up. And I think all of the bids that have got, or at least two of the bids that have gone in, have recognised that that is probably the easiest option until the Boundary Commission can come in, and they're not going to be coming in overnight. And then perhaps you would reduce down to 120. But you've got to consider the level of work that each of those councillors would have to undertake when they're effectively doing the district and the current county roles. And those of us who are twin hatters understand that's quite a workload when you're doing it, both of those. I think the real risk here is that if you may have one unitary and we don't know who would be elected to that unitary. That's the nature of politics. That's the democratic way. But if we had three unitaries who are trying to join up social care in some way or collaborate in some way, and they were all of different political persuasions and pulling in different directions, that's when vulnerable people are put at serious risk. And that is a bigger risk, as far as I'm concerned, than having a single unitary that looks after those really big services across the county in the way that we currently do and do very successfully.
I think the words that stick with me there, Leader, is the only way we could get it over the line was to have 168 councillors, which is an unsatisfactory number and would be the biggest
For
council in
now,
the country.
I am now
and is
going to hit the road,
beyond LGBT
and
guidance.
I'll be live
Well, if you
a
look
bit
at the
later on.
guidance, it actually pulls in two different directions. They do say 100, but then they sort of undermine themselves as well. The only way that we could actually start off is what I probably should have said, is 100 or 84, but that would be a huge workload for each councillor. So it would only be for a number of years, because
Business.
this is going to be a moving
Business
thing.
people, I
It's,
think. They're not going to be councillors anymore. They're going to be
unitary.
businessmen
It's had to
and
be a slow
businesswomen, aren't they?
process. They haven't started off with the
Right,
number
catch
they
you all
ended up
later.
with. They've had to
Bye for now.
use